And so my point is that we need to meet regularly, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Maybe we can embed in the bill, Dr. Urbeta, a mechanism to review the senior high school curriculum by the three main agencies. No? Ang dami ng body na magkakasama kayo. May PQF, merong curriculum consultancy group. Diba? May TEC. May ano pa? Philippine Credit. Di pa ba enough yung nag-uusap kayo? Diba? There are, I think, 4 or 5 different bodies that 3 of you are part of. No? So, but in any case, maybe part of, for purposes of senior high school review, I think because there's intersection between the three, clearly, I think we can make it more cohesive. That the meeting will be the review for the purposes of review. The review should be more frequent, and also there's some sort of output so that us policymakers will be guided and educated. So we'll probably include that in the bill. I understand, Dr. Beto, you need to leave. Do you have any comments regarding our discussion?
I think the one that pertains to the discussions already. I already have mentioned our agreement. I think the other things that I would like to mention are really just like the comments on the using the tax incentives. Because I thought that you should be aware that that has been done in other, but it doesn't work. Actually, I think Dr. Phoenix has mentioned that. So maybe you should find other ways of encouraging private sector participation in this, and that has been always a problem, and we're trying to look at it closely and hopefully finding a way of better ways of encouraging the private sector. I think the other thing that I would like to mention as well is the creating the database. That's also in the bill. I'd like to mention that we have a field job net database in DOLE, and that's a long-running platform, government platform of databases, and that would be. The experience of that will be very much useful in building on whether this should be part of the field job net or separately. But the experience itself, Dolly should be able to explain that as well. So I think those are the other things that I have not mentioned already from my first online appearance here in the hearing and today, and we just. I'm very much hopeful that and like very much the stand of the bill that to address the issues of the squarely because there are issues and we have to recognize that, and we cannot put it under the rug, and have to the way that the chair has dealt with it point by point is very laudable. That's the only way we can solve our problems. Acknowledge it and find solutions for it. I think that's the amendment.
Thank you, Dr. Beta. We'll talk about the tax incentive later on, and I stand corrected with my comments earlier. I reviewed the CREATE law once again. I will discuss that when we hear the comments of the Department of Finance. Thank you, Dr. Beta. And once again, I commend you for coming up with this study. This is a 3-part study.
To update that already because of
assignment ng DepEd is to read this. Hindi nyo pa yata nababasa ito, no? But it actually complements the tracer study, no? It actually complements the tracer study. So, but
the DepEd is part of that study. Actually, they are but they haven't read it. It's part. I don't know, but that of course the team that has been with us, we purposely invited NEDA and DepEd to be with us in that study because that's and the planning team should know because they're part of the study.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll call on CSC. I think CSC has a lot of things to update the committee. And we raised points last time that there's no distinction between senior high school and a 10-year graduate. So might as well abolish senior high school if we're not going to make any distinction. The added 2 years should give them value. But in the eyes of the government, obviously, there's no value. No? So, and I've heard Commissioner Lisada mention that they will look into this matter. So we want to get some updates from CSC. If there's one entity that should give some priority to the senior high school students, should be government, because we're the ones who mandated senior high school to our families anyway. So, Attorney Timbol?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for this opportunity that the CSC may already clarify some points regarding its support to the K-12 program. May we inform this particular committee that the Civil Service Commission has actually extended its full support to the K-12 program, even from the start when the law was actually passed. Initially, we started with approval of the qualification standards of the senior high school teachers, and then sometime in 2019, the Department of Education actually submitted a proposal to the CSC. Specifically, it proposed the amendment to the education requirement of at least 2 years of college education to high school graduate under Republic Act 10533. So in other words, the DepEd is requesting that senior high school graduates be considered as having completed 2 years in college. So at that time, the CSC was in a predicament. Why? Because there is also another law, the Philippine Qualifications Framework, RA 10968. In that particular law, there are actually 8 levels of qualifications. And we noted that if we compare the executive order implementing the PQF against the law issued in, actually approved in 2017, there is a major difference because the basic education wherein senior high school and junior high school will be included, actually considered as the foundation. Level 1s until 8, level 1 would start at NC1. It will actually increase, and C1, 2, 3, 4. And then there is a diploma at level 5. Then there is a bachelor's degree at level 6. 7 would be at master's degree. And then the doctoral and postgraduate will be at level 8. So at that time, we were trying to actually understand the effects of the PQF to the qualification standards set by the Commission and vis-a-vis senior high school graduates qualification. On May 5, 2021, the Civil Service Commission actually initiated a tripartite meeting between and among DepEd, CHED, and CSC representatives. In that particular meeting, we discussed several issues. Mr. Chair, may I share some of this if
Yes,
if
go
I
ahead.
may be allowed? Okay. One of the issues identified was applicability of the current PQF, the 2014 version, to the current requirements. And then also on the part of DepEd, it also commits to interpret high school graduate as written in the CSC qualification standards, and how the educational level of junior high school completers will be interpreted. Then equivalency of the national certification issued by TESDA was also discussed during that particular meeting. And notably, the first level administrative positions are heavily focused on the TVL track. So question about how about that other tracks such as academic, sports, and arts. Then on the part of the CSC, there is a request to particularly on the consideration of the age requirement for the processing and taking of the civil service examination applicants from the senior high school graduates, because as a policy, the CSC actually requires that applicants for examination must be at least 18 years of age. So I think there are some either junior or senior high school graduates that who would like to already take the exam. So this is also part of the study being undertaken by the CSC. And then on the part of the CHED, we actually requested clarification from the CHED since DepEd is asking amendment or consideration that their senior high school graduates be considered as having completed 2 years in college. We then requested clarification from CHED during the meeting. So as to if we consider senior high school graduates as equivalent to having completed 2 years in college, how about those who have actually completed 2 years in the current curriculum? So how we do now compare all of them? Because when we set qualification standards, we set them on a general general articulation. So we would like to really determine equivalency of the completion of senior high school, and then the previous curriculum as to the 2 years college and yung current 2 years college right now. So what happened after that is a technical committee meeting was again conducted. That happened on August 16, 2021. The DepEd now spearheaded that particular meeting, and they actually submitted a proposal. The proposal included phases of implementation on how qualifications of senior high school may already be integrated in the employment in government. So there are particular tasking as to what particular responsibility will be done by DepEd, done by the CSC, by the CHED, even TESDA. So we were about to schedule another second tripartite meeting, but it didn't happen until now. So it actually stopped at that, it was in 2021, and we are still awaiting clarification from DepEd and even CHED for purposes of aligning our qualification standards with the requirement of graduates of senior high school. That's all I could share at the moment, Mr. Chair.
Attorney, with all due respect, no, parang meeting tayo ng meeting but nothing's happening. No, I think we have met how many times already? 4?
Twice.
Oh,
Twice lang.
But when's the first one?
That was also in 2021.
It's already 2023.
Yes, Your Honor. So the last time, it's actually being spearheaded by DepEd because they're pushing for amendment of the qualification standards. As I have mentioned, they have actually committed to include the basic education under the PQF level 1 and 2. So they actually informed us that they have submitted a policy paper to the PQF National Coordinating Council. And they are actually facilitating approval of that. But until now, there is no information as to the status of the request of the DepEd for such inclusion or amendment in the PQF framework.
Attorney, I think the basic here is we cannot have the same treatment for all. No?
Yes.
A graduate of the old 10-year curriculum should be treated differently. A graduate of senior high school under the K-12 law should be treated differently. A graduate of a 2-year college should be treated differently. I think that those are very basic premises. We cannot lump them all together because, like I said, no, if you look at the curriculum of the senior high school, it's quite hefty. It's quite robust. No, I mean even CSC, you have analysts there, you have a lot of people, experts there. You look at the curriculum, and the curriculum will dictate what type of senior high school graduates we will have, no? After completing that curriculum. If we add the accreditation, so much the better, the test accreditation. But even as we speak right now, with the tracks and the strands and the 2 years additional, it gives them not only maturity but additional skills to be for them to land a decent job, more so landing a job in government. So my point of the matter here is we should have different treatments for these three types of completers. And for now, we don't have that. We have to remember that the first senior high school batch was 2018. It's already 2023, no? 2023. And the CSC guidelines is still the same, no? The way you treat our senior high school students is exactly the same compared to the old 10-year curriculum, which is totally unfair. That's my point. It's not fair that we added 2 years and then we're not recognizing those 2 years. That's my point. And I don't think you should, it doesn't take a lot of, just read the curriculum of the senior high school. I think that's basic. Tingnan yung curriculum and see what type of graduates we are producing. And this is what is quite this provision in double asterisk. It's very unfair. No, this includes graduates of high school under the old and new curriculum, senior high school. So we're lumping them together. That should not be the case. No, that's what my point. Because I looked at the senior high school curriculum many times. It's very different from the old 10-year curriculum. Malayo siya. There's value, and we're not, as government, should recognize that. No, so. And I go back to the interview of Commissioner Lizada. She recognizes that all I want to hear is, when do you start recognizing our senior high school graduates? You've been meeting for 2 years now. It's really a matter of action already. When do we? We're not demanding, complicated jobs for senior high school students. What I'm demanding is recognition that they are senior high school students and they can work in government, certain government jobs. That's what I'm demanding. Go ahead, attorney, if you have any
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Definitely, we could identify specific positions, but Mr. Chair, there are specific position titles in the government. And when we actually publish these positions, possible contenders or applicants could either be, as you mentioned, either from the old curriculum high school graduates, either from the senior. So we could not specifically isolate what specific positions would be best catered or would best fit senior high school graduates at the moment. Because, as mentioned, it could also, applicants could also come from high school graduates who also completed vocational course. And then, so we know for a fact that the specific section 8 of the proposed bill mentioned about affirmative action. And we know for a fact what the particular intention of that provision is. The Civil Service Commission actually commits to review further our existing qualification standards. In fact, Mr. Chair, the CSC is trying to have a qualification standards information system wherein from yung manual basis of yung printed copy po ng ating manual, can be accessed to via website. We already have inventoried first level positions, and based on our inventory, around 1,476 are first level positions. Out of this 1,476, about 937 may actually be applicable or appropriate for our senior high school graduates. However, there could be some distinction as to some positions. As mentioned earlier, some positions might require a sub-professional eligibility. Positions such as for the clerical positions actually require sub-professional eligibility, as compared also for some positions belonging to the trades and craft. So iba-iba din po yung dimension. So far, what we have been discussing with the DepEd, with the CHED, is more of the dimension of the education. But for the positions, the first level positions in government, there are other dimensions that applicants or candidates have to actually meet for them to be considered to the position. But on behalf of the Commission, we would like to inform the Honorable Senator that we are already working on it as to our commitment to actually make a distinction from the MC that we have issued in 2019. Yes, we have to admit that at that time we were actually quite confused as to the PQF, as to its application, as to whether senior high school graduates are really part of the secondary, as to no difference at all. But based on the discussion with DepEd, with CHED, and of course, all available materials about the senior high school, the K-12 program, the CSC is more than ready to identify said positions, Mr. Chair.
Like for example, if a senior high school student will take ABM or will take STEM for 2 years, that means something to government. Diba? I mean, if you have taken accounting, business and management, that means you've acquired skills in accounting, business and management, as opposed to someone who has not taken ABM under the 10-year course. So that 2 years ABM is value for us, no, government. And we should recognize that, because right now, under the eyes of the CSE, there's no recognition to that. That's what is quite disappointing for all of us. We're not recognizing the ABM, the HUMS, the STEM, even the TVL track that they have taken for 2 years. In the eyes of government, it's valueless. There's no value to that. No, so I'm trying to change that, because that sends a signal to our constituents that government itself is putting a lot of weight to that 2 years that we added. And CSC is a very important government agency. It's a constitutional body, and it's an important body that also sends signals to people who want to work in government. So, and in my opinion, you don't need to meet so many times. Just look at the curriculum. The curriculum speaks for itself. No? Just ask the commissioners to look at the curriculum and assign a value to that curriculum. It's impossible that you cannot value that 2 years. Because if you look at the curriculum, that 2 years is quite extensive. No? Even in the absence of the accreditation. So, not to belabor this issue, my message to the CSC is independently look at the senior high school curriculum and independently assess what jobs we can offer to their senior high school graduates, and also to decouple the 10-year high school graduates to our senior high school. If you are giving the 10-year high school graduates a specific job, the senior high school should be a step higher, no? Because they've learned additional skills for the last 2 years. That's my point. No? And because it's taking so much time. No? So independently, CSC should look at this and assess it for themselves. No? Go ahead, attorney.
Mr. Chair, yes, we are up for the challenge as to independently evaluating the curriculum of the senior high school program. But may I ask also, although you have mentioned that we independently, but for purposes of making sure that the policies to be issued by the Commission is also inclusive, such that we actually apply what we call EOP with regard to employment in government, as much as possible, equal opportunity for all who would like to join the government should also be afforded to everyone. We will do the independent, but I hope the Honorable Senator would not take it against us if we have some light or some request for meetings for further clarification, especially for CHED, because we would like to be very much clarified when we identify specific positions that will be applicable to senior high school graduates, and as compared to those who have completed 2 years in college before and even until now, just to avoid confusion as to the application. Mr. Chair, we'll do the independent evaluation, but we simply make sure that it is in light of existing laws and rules. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, well, Ched and DepEd are here, so I'm sure they'll be more than happy to meet you. But let's do this with a sense of urgency, because we've been talking about this for many times. In fact, I know the commissioners know about this issue very well, and it's not only the first time that we've been talking about this. I think many events and many occasions we've talked about the lack of importance the government is giving to our senior high schools. That's the crux of the issue. We as government, we're not giving our senior high schools graduates importance in terms of job opportunities. No, so that's the message that I want to convey to our commissioners. Next is Dole. We're also joined by Mr. Jerome Lucas. Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for inviting the Department of Labor and Employment. We would like to also share, Mr. Chair, one of the studies conducted by Dole through the Bureau of Local Employment in partnership with Jumpstart Philippines, a study on the employability of senior high school graduates from July to September 2019. The study aims to determine, first, the willingness and readiness of employers to hire senior high school graduates. Second, the types and status of jobs available to them. Third, the employer's experience in hiring senior high school graduates. The study revealed that employers have little knowledge about the senior high school program. Second, they also deemed that senior high school graduates are not as mature and as competent as college graduates, and do not have enough skills for work, hence are only fit for rank and file or blue-collar positions. Nevertheless, the employers claim that the senior high school graduates are employable, and they are open to accepting them in company only for limited positions. The study recommends the following. Number one, the improvement of senior high school curriculum to enhance the competency building through subjects that are focused per strand or the intended work, incorporate vocational subjects to emphasize specialization. Second, include soft skills and character development for the workplace. Third, consider incentivizing companies that accept, absorb, train, and retain senior high school graduates. Fourth, to highlight or promote companies who hire senior high school graduates. And finally, raise awareness and educate employers on the intended outcomes of the senior high school program. The DOL identified interventions to enhance the employability of senior high school students. First, there is already an existing labor market information mechanisms to be expanded, especially for first-time job seekers. Second, to boost and expand the existing youth programs of the Department of Labor and Employment, such as the SPES, GIP, and Jumpstart that increase the employability and productivity of workers. Third, to further strengthen the capacity of our Public Employment Service Offices or PESOs to deliver effective job matching and counseling services at the local level. And finally, to have a closer coordination between the employers, the academe, and the government to efficiently share and disseminate labor market information. We'd also like to share, Mr. Chair, that the Department of Labor and Employment is very supportive of the bill, particularly because one of the key priorities of the department is to increase the employability of workers, including the senior high school graduates, as indicated in the Philippine Development Plan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you to Dole. We're also joined by the private sector, ECOP, represented by Mr. Maronilla. Any comments, sir?
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. Yes, our Skills and Education Committee noticed that out of the 4 strands, the senior high school students usually go for the academic strand. This is because they believe that they are more employable with added education. From the point of view of the employers, let's say I have 2 applicants. So one is a senior high school, the other is a college student. Given that everything is equal, I would normally hire a college graduate. Unless, of course, if the senior high school would show me a certificate, let's say the job description concerns agriculture, and the senior high school has a certificate concerning agriculture, I would hire the senior high school. So that's a scenario that I'm just trying to illustrate here in a simple version. Yun lang po. That's also why not 80% of the senior high school enter college. It's also because from the point of view of the senior high school, they would not mas konti ang chances nila to get into college. And from the point of view of the employer, of course, if we look at it in the equal sense, we would choose the college student rather than the senior high school. Yun lang po, except mo kapag may certification siyang specialization and all sorts of that. Yun lang po, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I just want to ask, you mentioned certification. We actually had a discussion about that earlier. Is that a game changer for employers to hire? For example, if we do fund the certification, will that improve the perception of our employers to hire senior high school students?
Definitely a game changer, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
And then, based on the experiences of our employers right now, what will be, aside from the certification, what other skills are they looking for? What other skills are they looking for? What other traits are they also looking for that we should also embed in our senior high school?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As what our partner from Dole mentioned earlier, it is the soft skills that employers really look into, because soft skills are these things that are not learned, or just are not easily learned. And in the long run, soft skills will soft skills would be good, better for a student rather than the hard skills. Yun lang po.
Soft skills typically are learned on the job. That's what I experience myself. These are, like, for example, teamwork. These are soft skills. Cooperation. These are soft skills. But do you learn this by working with a team? You learn this by interacting with your teammates, whether inside the classroom, but most importantly, outside of the classrooms. So that being the case, the immersion activity of senior high school is very important. And any comment on the immersion program? Is ECOP aware that our senior high school students undergo work immersion? Are they aware that we have that in our senior high school curriculum? And if you are aware, any feedback regarding the work immersion program?
Mr. Chairman, we are aware of such program, but with the details on such program, I'm not too familiar with it. Sorry.
How about the relevant skills? No, for example, industry-specific skills. Any feedback whether our senior high school students are learning industry-specific skills? Like, for example, let's say in the hospitality business, no, tourism, hotel, restaurants, tourism industry. Any feedback regarding whether our senior high school who are interested in that, no, are being trained with relevant skills in hospitality or tourism or even agri, no, the agri sector?
I'm not familiar with it, Mr. Chairman. But what we know from our perspective is that these hard to fill in jobs should be focused on in our tech voc subjects. So yun po ang focus ng ECOP, such as agriculture and automotive. These are the industries that are hard to fill jobs. So hopefully po these are ang tech voc would focus on these jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're also joined by ULAP. Thank you to ECOP. And any comments on the bill and on the discussion?
Mr. Chair, we fully support the bill that has noble intention to ensure the senior high school graduate are fully equipped or work ready. And also, we support the strengthening of multi-stakeholder collaboration because we recognize the importance of which among national, local agencies and other concerned stakeholders. We support this kind of mechanism that will enable a whole of government approach to address the gap. One notable, I may also observe other LGUs that have partnered with private sectors through their PESO program and offer job opportunities to the general public, specifically on high school or senior high school graduates from all curriculum. Nakikita ko rin po dito, Mr. Chair, if I may, that the continuous and strengthening the partnership with LGUs and under the work immersion programs to develop the skills of our senior high schools. If I may also share that LGU Navotas in 2019 has partnered with DepEd to train 203 senior high school students to work under the immersion program to work in LGU Navotas. So, Mr. Chair, ULAP together with our member leagues, if given the opportunity, would also like to be involved in the crafting of the bill's IRR if we are given that opportunity, Mr. Chair. That would be all. Thank you po.
Thank you. Thank you. To DOF, I think who's Attorney Espinosa. I think I made just put on record, I made a mistake in the interpretation of granting additional deductible incentives, no, as specified in the law. That was discussed earlier in the last meeting. So the intention is really to give incentive as a give incentives as a form of deductible. No? So if you accept senior high school students in your company, no, as part of their work immersion program, that work immersion program can be used as a deductible. No? So that is the intention of our proposal. And last time we had an extensive discussion on that. But I want to clarify that the intention really is to incentivize by way of deductible. No? That is the concept that we are introducing. So, any comments to that concept?
First of all, Mr. Chair, good afternoon, and thank you for giving the DOF the opportunity to provide some inputs to the hearing of this important bill. We do recognize the laudable intent and aim of this bill. We duly received, Mr. Chair, the request for data in relation to Section 9 of the proposal, and our Bureau of Internal Revenue is already in the process of extracting that data. But before I go into the status of the data collection, Mr. Chair, we note, the DOF notes the clarification that the Honorable Senator made regarding the intent of this particular provision. Regarding the data requested of the DOF, we would like to beg the indulgence of the Honorable Senator, but our Bureau of Internal Revenue has expressed the need for additional time to complete the task of getting the data, particularly disaggregated data on the training expense deduction claimed by corporations under the tax law as amended by CREATE, Mr. Chair. Of course, we have general comments as to the laudable intent of the bill and as to the DOF's usual position regarding possibly or potentially revenue eroding measures, Mr. Chair. But we would like to reserve our final comments when we obtain the data and can provide a more nuanced analysis of potential impact.
That's I am very careful also of any revenue eroding concepts. That's why I want to start off with how many corporations are actually taking advantage of Section 4, number 5 of CREATE, in which additional deductible from taxable income of 1/2 of the value of labor training expense. How many corporations are actually taking advantage of this?
Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, we are still in the process of getting that data. Our BIR is on it.
Okay, yeah, because we'll start off with that. Because I want to know if corporations are being incentivized by this provision. The intention of this provision is to train. No? Because if you train, you can use it as deductible. So our intention is make the work immersion explicitly part of the training. So if I take senior high school students who are doing work immersion, I can use that as a deductible. Because right now, from my consultations with principals, it's very difficult to convince corporations to take in senior high school students. I don't know, Ms. Isabel, if you share the same sentiment, but corporations in Valenzuela, they don't care. Because they don't, what's in it for them? No? It's only people coming into their premises and they're not gaining anything. So as a matter of making it more attractive, is if they take in senior high school students, you can use that as a deductible to their expense. No, but I want to know first how many, because we have a present law on that already, but how many companies are taking advantage of that? No? That's number one. And then number two, what is the process? Because I understand from the last hearing from PCCI, from Dr. Phoenix, that it's quite difficult, no, to fulfill the requirements for this deductible. No? So we want to also understand what are the requirements, because we might introduce that, but if the requirements are difficult, no, that's going to be useless. So we want to also know what are the requirements imposed. No? And then number three, just give us your comment on that particular concept. No, work immersion program as part of training. No, we'll make it explicit. No.
Noted, Mr. Chair.
And yeah, just submit to us a position paper on that. I know that normally DOF takes time to analyze if it will erode revenue, but I'm very conscious of that, no, that it should not erode revenues. No? DBM, any comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. For the Department of Budget and Management, for our general comment on the organizational and budgetary implications of the proposal or of the bill. First, we interpose no objection to the creation of the National Batang Magaling Council to integrate, harmonize, and align the efforts and resources of agencies concerned regarding this initiative. However, the provision of the requisite technical and support services to the Council should be handled by the existing organic staff of member agencies concerned with this collegial body. Hence, the creation of additional positions thereof is deemed not necessary. On the other hand, the creation of local councils in the different local government units or LGUs could also be pursued. The provision of secretariat support to the local council should be undertaken by the units of the LGUs concerned. On the initial implementation of the proposal or of the bill, the same may be charged against the DepEd program basic education curriculum with an allocation of 5 billion under the fiscal year 2023 General Appropriations Act. In general, we interpose no objection to the proposal or to the proposed legislative measure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you to DBM. And just as a note to DOF, no, there's a big debate last hearing whether the current wording under the CREATE law already includes work immersion. So can you comment on that? Because it can be interpreted that work immersion can already be part of the Section 34, number 5 of the CREATE law. I don't know if you can answer that now, but the intention is to make it explicit. But if you think that it's already part of, it can be interpreted as part of the CREATE laws, Section 34 of CREATE law, then that's fine. But can you comment on that now, or you want to submit to us your position paper?
Perhaps to be more certain, Mr. Chair, we can just put it or include it in the position paper.
Because Dr. Phoenix already interpreted that it's already part of it. It's already part of it, and that's why we want to understand from the DOF whether it can be interpreted that way, or we need to make it more explicit in the law.
The language employed in the pertinent section does use the word enrolled in public, etc., senior high schools, and therefore it may conceivably be interpreted to already include the work immersion program. However, we will discuss this, Mr. Chair, and come up with a more definite position on whether further clarification or a more express language is necessary to convey the intent of the provision.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Lastly, Dr. Phoenix is also online. Dr. Phoenix of PCCI, are you still there? Okay, sige. All right. He's not available right now. I've already exhausted all of my questions. If there are any more comments, Ms. Victorino, do you have any comments on that incentive? Because if you look at the CREATE law, no, and can we flash this? Additional deductible can be granted to students who are in skills development of enterprise-based training under the public senior high school, no? Do you know if corporations are taking advantage of this deductible?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have already submitted, or DepEd already submitted the position paper regarding this.
But do you have what's in your position?
I don't have, I'm sorry po, I don't have a copy of our position paper, but we already submitted.
Okay.
the
Well,
position
the intention here is DepEd is covered.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering if corporations are indeed taking advantage of this, and if our senior high school students are being benefited by that deduction, no? Yun ang gusto ko lang. That's what I want to know, no? Because if not, then we can amend this provision to include specifically work immersion program. So that's easy for DepEd to attract corporations to join the work immersion program. In fact, I asked that last time. How many companies have joined this work immersion program?
Yes. I think that will be very attractive, Mr. Chair. And it is when it comes to work immersion, partnership is done between the school or the division office and the local government units.
Yeah, I understand that. But for the division and the corporation, I think the mechanism there is for the principals and the superintendents to talk to corporations.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
To convince them, no? But not all corporations are convinced. So what we want is to incentivize. No? If I take your senior high school, I get some deductible. No? This is the actual provision, no, in CREATE. It can be interpreted that our senior high school students are already covered, particularly their work immersion program. But I want to know in reality whether this provision there is being utilized by DepEd.
Where is that? I don't want to give some reactions there, Mr. Chair, because there's already, I think, a position on the part of DepEd regarding that. So, I still do not have yet perhaps data regarding this.
Okay, just submit to us. No? The basic question is, this deductible being offered in CREATE, is it benefiting DepEd? In particular, our senior high school students. That's the basic question there. Just submit to us
Yes, yes,
data
Mr.
on that.
Chair.
No? Yeah. PCCI, Mr. Marlon Mina. Dr. Phoenix, go ahead po.
On? Sorry, on. Good afternoon, Senator.
Yes, we can hear you po.
No, as I pointed out in the last hearing, this tax deduction is already available, no, today. In the case of PESA enterprises and BI registered companies, that we can deduct all of our training expenses already. It's as a legitimate deduction from our taxable income. But in addition to that, we are allowed to deduct 50% of that. Let's say if it costs us 100,000 pesos, then we will be able to deduct 150,000 pesos from our taxable income. No? But as for my own personal experience, I do a lot of training in my companies, but then I really have not availed of that incentive because, as I said also previously, the process is quite tedious, and secondly, there's always some question on how much, what really are training expenses, no? And that also goes for the Adopt a School program, where the incentive is also available, no? And I have participated in the Adopt a School in rebuilding classrooms and donating educational materials, but I have not also availed of that incentive. I just deducted whatever it cost me, without asking for the additional 50%. So this is, as I said, this incentive is fine, but I think in the implementation and also in the manner that the private companies can avail of it, it's not an incentive anymore, no. So that is really on that particular subject. But Mr. Chairman, may I be allowed to also comment on the other things that was discussed today?
Yes, go ahead po.
Well, as I also said last time, only 20% of the cohort are able to finish tertiary education or graduate with a bachelor's degree or an associate degree from college or university. So you have 80% of the cohort that did not finish, no? And in fact, on the high school level, only 45% of the cohort graduate. And out of that 45% of that cohort that graduate from, in this case, the statistics are still in 2011 or 2012, before the implementation of the senior high school. The 45% of the cohort that finished grade 10 at that time, only 25% go to tertiary level. The other 20% also drop out, no? So the point I want to make is that really we should dapat natin pagbigyan ng pansin yung mga disadvantaged, the one that are not able to finish high school and those that are not able to finish tertiary education, no? Which is the majority of the cohort, no? So we have to set up programs that can really lead to the graduate being certified and also really getting the capabilities and the competencies needed for them to be able to be gainfully employed or gainfully self-employed, no? And that's why in one of the recommendations of the PCCI Education Task Force that was convened by PCCI, of which I was a member, we said one of the recommendations is that in the senior high school program, let's separate out the Technical-Vocational-Livelihood track from DepEd and give it to TESDA, because the people that sign up for the Technical-Vocational-Livelihood track, they are there because of the promise that after they finish senior high school, that they are employable and that they really are prepared to go to the world of work, which, as we know, is not the case at all. That hasn't happened, no? So I think TESDA would be better equipped in preparing training programs, education and training programs that will really lead for them to get the competencies and qualifications in the world of work. And here, we also advocate that TESDA work closely with industry and the private sector, so that really the training regulations that will come out from TESDA is really able to train and educate our young people for the world of work. No? So basically, this proposed law is fine. There is the intent of really improving our senior high school so that it can really meet the promise of employability or self-employability when they graduate. And to me, the best agency or the best department that should lead that exercise for those that are really going to senior high school because they would like to get the capabilities to be able to get employment or to get self-employment is TESDA, not the Department of Education, because the Department of Education's mandate is to prepare them for higher education. In effect, they are there for the academic track itself, no? And in fact, better if they can really provide, as was discussed earlier, the higher levels of STEM track, no? Rather than only the basic academic track. And you saw also the statistics earlier that only if a small number, 30% plus of the senior high schools were able to offer STEM track. No? So what about the other 65% that don't have it? And then you have students who would like to take the STEM track because they want to go into the sciences or in engineering. They are again disadvantaged. No? So if DepEd can concentrate really on the academic side and on the Technical-Vocational-Livelihood track, that can be taken care of by TESDA much better because they have the facilities and they have the teachers and trainers for Technical-Livelihood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Phoenix, for that, for those inputs. Yes, Mrs. Victorino.
Mr. Chair, I would like to add also that the bill is very favorable sa ating work immersion program kasi tataas po ang partnership natin at the
Please share, like, subscribe, and comment sa aking channel para updated ka lagi sa kaganapan sa loob at labas ng ating bansa. Hanggang sa muli, magandang araw Pilipinas!